Hey guys, thank you for joining me in my corner of the internet and welcome to a new video. Welcome back to my channel, and for those who are joining me for the first time, my name is Asali, and this is a YouTube channel where I just share things that I've learned in my life as a Christian. And I'm hoping this channel is the type of thing that someone who's trying to work with Christ is looking for. Yeah, so today we're going to the Bible, to the book of, I have my Bible here, so John chapter 8, and we shall start from let's just start from verse 1, right? Jesus went unto the mountain of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in him, and when they had set her in the midst, they said unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned, but what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down, and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he had them not. And so when they continued asking him, he lifted himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him cast the first stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted in their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning from the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Jesus had lifted himself, and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. That was John 8 from 1 to 11. So the Bible, the New Testament, has the Gospels, a collection of books called the Gospels. That's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And this story is only found in the book of John. Now, the Gospels is an account of Jesus' life, birth, life, death, and resurrection. And this story is only found in John, which I found it fascinating, because it is said that this John is also John who wrote the book of Revelation. I think it was Jesus' favorite brother or cousin. I'm not sure about that. If you know, comment down below and tell me what you think. So I was reading this text, and I'm a creative and logical thinker, and I'm reading this text. I'm trying to imagine the scene in my head as it's playing out, and there's a few things that caught my attention. In verse 3 and 4, my Bible says, and the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in her midst, they said unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now, here's Jesus, minding his own business, is preaching in the synagogue, in the morning, in the temple, and in the temple, and then the Pharisees back in the day could be like modern day church leaders, elders, church deacons, or even the pastorate, right? And he's preaching, and then they bring this woman and say, Hey, bruh, this mommy was found being adulterous. Now, what do you? We should be stoned according to the law of Moses, amen, or not? Now, first of all, y'all said caught in the very act. which means, well, were you there? How did you catch her? Were you there? What happened? In my head, I'm thinking it's either they were there in the house where they caught her, or they set her up. Either way, they had to be quite close by to actually catch her in the act, in the very act. Now, that stood out to me, because how many times do we point fingers at other people and forget we ourselves are also in the same sin? Right? Because in a way you can say we caught her in the very act and you weren't there. Suspicious. Anyway, let's go on. So Jesus, this is what he does. He stoops down and starts writing on the ground. So I'm over here thinking, what is he writing? I mean, like, he says nothing and just stoops down and writes on the ground. And now them boys are like pestering him. He's like, yo, tell us, what should we do? You is popular and everything. You're over here preaching and spreading the word and doing all these things and being Mr. Popular. So Mr. Popular, tell us. Now please note, in verse 6 it says, they said tempting him, tempting him, that they may have to accuse him. Now you see, the purpose over here of these Pharisees was not really about this adulterous woman. Nah, they had their own mission, because Jesus was getting popular and everybody was following and he's healing and he's preaching and guys are receiving the word. But these guys are like, hold up, who is this man? We need to catch him and get him in check before we lose our church. Yeah, this could be, now I'm saying this very carefully because I might step a lot of toes. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be. I can't even say I'm a newbie Christian. I've been a Christian all my life. Have I made mistakes? Yes, I have. And I'm in a space in my life right now where I'm finding Christ. Or at least I'm trying to find Christ. You know? I'm tired of being tired. Of living in sin and doing all these things that don't make me happy really. And I found peace by just following what Christ does. So I say this with utmost carefulness. That's not correct English. Do not quote me anywhere. But how many people have found themselves claiming religion or Christianity or spirituality or all these things in the name of, or because I am such and such a person in the church, I have the right to say this? Or how many pastors have you seen being pulled down from the pulpit because of something they said on the pulpit that's the truth, but people are more comfortable with comforting lies about religion and Christ and all these other things? It's quite sad. I don't know what word to put there. But let's go on with the story. Now, in this scene, I saw two people. There's the judge and there's the one being judged. Now, in essence, the one being judged is the adulterous woman. Now, we don't know her name. That's what she's given. That's the name that she's given. And then the one who's doing the judging is everybody else around us, around her, Pharisees included. And I asked myself, like, at that moment, I don't know, I just thought to myself, how many times have we found ourselves in that type of situation where there's a judge and there's a person being judged. Which side are you on mostly? And you're lying to yourself if you say the one being judged. Because most of the times, we're the ones judging. Because as the story says, according to the Pharisees were claiming, according to the law of Moses, this woman should be stoned. Now try to picture with me. This woman has been brought out of adultery in the act. Now if it's in the act, she's probably naked or half naked or, and she's been thrown in the circle of all these people in front of Jesus, and in her sin, there's evidence of her sin still on her. And everyone has she cleared a stone, holding a stone ready to throw it at her just at the command, waiting for Jesus to say, okay, fine, throw it. And this is what Jesus does. He stoops down, not to pick up a stone, but to write on the ground. And you got me thinking, what is he writing? And he says this in verse, I'm lost. 7. He that is without sin among you, let him cast the first stone. Now, I'm trying to picture if I was one judging and I'm over here throwing and Jesus says that, I go wait. He who is without sin. Here's the part about this whole story that got me. In verse 9, it says, and they which had heard it, being convicted in their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning from the eldest unto the last. As in, everybody started thinking to themselves, hey, have I sinned? Let me think. First of all, the fact that you have to think already means that you have sinned. Because that little white lie you told the other day, that's a sin. Not keeping the Sabbath, that's a sin. Coveting one person's property, that's a sin. Lusting over your neighbor, that's a sin. Sound familiar? 10 Commandments, perhaps? I don't know. Other sins that you can mention. Everybody has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But here's the thing. Jesus, after saying this, he goes back down and stoops and writes on the ground. And people started leaving one by one until it's just Jesus and this adulterous woman. And this is the whole point of this text. No one else was left but Jesus, because in that whole entire crowd, he who is without sin was Jesus. He was the only one without sin. He was the only one who didn't stoop down to pick up a stone to throw at people. At this woman, not at people, at this woman. Many a times we find ourselves pointing fingers, picking up stones, ready to judge our neighbor because of the sin they committed. Now you see, this text, it taught me something. This woman, we don't know her name, but she's described as her sin. How many times have you find yourself that people describe you by your sin first before they describe you, before they say your name? Right? The one who got pregnant without wedlock. The liar. The thief. People describe you by your sin. But first of all, Jesus didn't deny her sin. He was like, okay, throw the stone, but he who is without sin cast the first one. And everybody left. And got me thinking, as he was stooping down, writing on the ground, and I'm asking myself what he's writing. Perhaps he was writing to this woman. Imagine with me, she's on the ground trying to cover herself, trying to hide her sin, and Jesus goes down and writes, I got you. You're covered. Don't worry. I'm saving you. I'm about to save you. There's so many times I found myself in that position where everyone is not, people are pointing fingers and people are judging you, and you're feeling judged and you're feeling guilty for your sin and all this other negativity. But Jesus is right down there with you on the ground, assuring you that he's got you covered. And it hit me, that's the purpose of his ministry on earth. Christ came down from heaven in all his glory to show us, I'm a man now. Be like me. This is how you're supposed to live. This is how you're supposed to show grace to your neighbor. Many a times we pick up stones forgetting we ourselves are in that same sin. We ourselves are sinners. We ourselves, there's no way you can judge someone who's in the same sin as you. It does not make no sense. You can't catch someone in the very act and then turn around and accuse them, while you yourself were in that very act with them. But you're over here picking up a stone, ready to throw it. Drop the stone. Christ, God, in all his glory and majesty, granted us grace. What about us? Us who are unworthy of his grace. Why can't we show that to other people? That's what I learned today. John. In my Bible, the heading is Jesus forgives an adulterous woman. Forgiveness is the hardest thing any human being can find. But if Jesus can do it, and he's God, and he was man, so he knows exactly how we feel, what about us? Something to think about. If you like my video, give it a thumbs up, share, click subscribe. Come on, it really helps my channel a lot. And if you like more of my content, well, click the bell, get notified of any video that I post up, and be sure to comment down below of anything that you may have learned by reading the text. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Share with me, comment down below, and share with your friends. Thank you for tuning in. Until the next video. See you.